All right. Welcome, everybody. Kenneth, Christy, are you with me?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello.
All right. Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started here in just a minute. We got a lot of people still filing in. So if you see the chat button, why don't you type in where you're tuning in from? Maybe Kenneth or Christy will give you a quick shout out, and then we'll get started in just a moment talking about teaching English abroad in Asia.
We got
And
Madison, look at Madison, Wisconsin in the house. Oh, we have a fellow Chicagoan,
Los Angeles, California girl here. Oh, another California.
New Jersey, Pittsburgh, another Chicago, South Africa.
Cool.
It's pretty late for you now.
Montreal,
UK.
Tom,
You're not lost, Tom.
Staying awake.
London. It's cold and I'm tired.
New York, Egypt. Oh,
Egypt,
yeah.
Ahlan wa sahlan. All right. Fantastic. We got Texas, we got Indiana, Jamaica in the house.
Nice.
I love it. We have such an international crowd.
Right?
Seattle, Tennessee, Australia. Welcome from the future.
I was like all the time zones. I love
hmm
All
Atlanta.
it. Missouri.
all right. Well, wow. We got people tuning in from all over the world, literally. We got a great broadcast lined up for you here. We got Kenneth and Christy, both of whom taught English in Asia, Japan, and South Korea, respectively. So, a ton of experience and expertise. Um, let's get started and just introduce ourselves and then get into the meat of the broadcast here. My name is John Bentley. I'm a founder here at International TEFL Academy. I'm originally from Southern California. Actually grew up in Cairo, Egypt, so I was lucky. My parents were lifelong expats. They lived in East Asia for years before I was born, and then have basically spent their entire adult lives overseas. So I was lucky. I got to live overseas, travel overseas, then study overseas, work overseas. First in travel writing and journalism, and then I got into international education. Been working in the field of TEFL for more than 15 years now. So super pleased to be here talking about Asia, one of the fantastic parts of the world. And yeah, I'd like to introduce my colleague and pal, Christy. Christy, why don't you introduce yourself there?
Hey everyone, I'm Christy. I'm an admissions advisor here at International TEFL Academy, and I'm also alumni. I did the course here to get my TEFL certification after doing a little traveling and just kind of accidentally teaching people English. And someone was like, "You know, you can get paid to do this, right?" And I was like, "What?" And so I used my TEFL certification to be able to teach in Spain, Brazil, and of course, Japan. I did the JET program. If anyone's familiar, we'll be talking more about that today, most definitely. So yeah, I'm excited to chat with you guys. I'll be in the Q&A, so any questions, send my way.
All right, we got Kenneth on the team here. Kenneth, why don't you introduce yourself and all your exciting travels over the years?
Yes, absolutely. So guys, my name is Kenneth. I'm a Florida native, and I actually don't come from a teaching background at all, like probably most people on this call. So I never knew that teaching English was in my future. But it was just a friend who I grew up with. I saw him abroad in Thailand. And I just asked him, like, what are you doing there? It looks like you've been there for a few months. And then he explained this whole concept of TEFL to me. And that's when I went down a rabbit hole and started researching what teaching English was about. So I did my TEFL course in the Czech Republic in Prague. So I did the in-person course, and then I started teaching about a week afterwards. So everything was really quick, very quick turnaround. I worked with adults in Prague. And then once I was there, I started hearing about the money and all of the benefits that you can be made and had in Asia, specifically a place like South Korea. So, the wheels started spinning in my head, and I decided that I'm going to Asia next. And I just put the plan in motion and I made my way over to South Korea. I spent some time over there. I did the EPIC program, which is the Korean equivalent to the JET program that Christy just mentioned. And we'll talk about that later in the broadcast. And after Korea, came back home for a bit to the US and just had that itch to go back abroad again and found myself in Spain. So yeah, teaching English is wonderful. When you have this certificate, it's something that does not expire. You have it for life, and you can do this for as little or as long as you want. So excited to share all the opportunities with you guys today.
All right, that's right. So some of you have used the chat function already. Going forward, we're actually going to turn the chat off so that Christy can share general announcements and links for great resources and so forth. But you can ask questions throughout the broadcast using the Q&A button. So you should see a Q&A button as well. All of your questions will be recorded. So we're probably going to have around 100 people in this broadcast. So Christy may not get to all of your questions. If she doesn't, get in touch with your advisor, set up a time to call, send them an email, shoot them a text, and they'll be happy to go over all of your questions and options in detail. If you don't have an advisor yet, shoot us an email or give us a call and we'll set you up. Also, we will be sending out a follow-up email tomorrow with a recording of this broadcast, link for recording of this broadcast, and also a whole bunch of great resources about teaching English in Asia and around the world, and also TEFL certification. So keep an eye out with that. And yeah, let's get started here.
All right, guys. So this is the agenda for tonight. And for this morning for some of you. So we will talk about who we are here at International TEFL Academy. We'll also go over the highlights of teaching English in Asia, the different job opportunities that there are there. What are the requirements for teaching in Asia? So, for example, do you need a degree? So we'll go into that. We'll go into the top countries for teaching English in Asia. Also, the TEFL certification will let you know exactly how to earn your TEFL. What are the lengths of the courses? What type of courses can you take in person, online? We'll go over the job guidance that we provide you as a student here at ITA, and also beyond that, job placement programs. And we'll wrap up with the Q&A in the end.
Yeah, so who are we here at International TEFL Academy, also known as ITA? TEFL stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language. We are world leaders in TEFL training and certification. So we offer courses to teach you how to become an English teacher, even if you don't have a background in teaching or education. And then we provide worldwide lifetime job search guidance to all of our students and alumni to help you find opportunities around the globe. So there are literally more than 1 billion people learning English around the world. If you're a native or fluent English speaker, you're in demand as a teacher, and we're here to train you and help you find opportunities to teach English and get paid living abroad. We're super proud that we've been recognized with all sorts of accolades and awards over the years. Just recently, we were named by goabroad.com and gooverseas.com as top online TEFL course for 2023 and 2024. We won numerous other awards, and you can find literally thousands of reviews that our students and alumni have written over the years. So you can get a good perspective on, what our students think about us and also about the general process of going abroad to teach English. So be sure to check some of those out.
Yeah, and let's look at ITA by the numbers so you guys have a better understanding of who we are and what we do and our students. So we were founded in 2010. We're about to celebrate our 14th anniversary in July, I believe. And the age range of our students, of our graduates, so it goes from as young as 17 to as mature as 85. I personally enrolled a student the other day who was 81 years old, and she's taking our online course. And I think she's planning to teach online with that. So it's a great way to stay sharp at any age and to learn a new skill. Total students that we've certified in 2023, we certified over 3,000 students. And to date, we've certified 48,000 students. So we're hoping and we're pretty confident that we'll hit our 50th student this year. But yeah, with all of that, it's important to know that students come from all ages and all backgrounds, and you don't need prior experience or a degree in education to teach English abroad or online. And sometimes you don't even need a college degree. And we'll explain which countries that's true in.
Yeah, and just a quick word here about our team. So everybody on our team, like Christy and Kenneth, all of our advisors, they've all taught abroad, they've all lived abroad, they've all uh, gone through that experience of moving to a foreign country to live and work and travel, and so they understand personally the rewards and challenges of doing that. So, in addition to TEFL classes and job markets and how do I get a job? I'm sure a lot of you have questions like, hey, if I go move to South Korea, how am I going to open a bank account? How am I going to make friends? What if I don't speak the language? And so all of our advisors have face those challenges themselves, and they're here to answer all of your questions and help provide you with realistic options given your background and goals for how you can get TEFL certified and then have a great experience teaching English abroad or online or even in your local community.
Yeah, so before we get into the core of the broadcast tonight, we want to get a feel for the room, the virtual room. So we're going to ask you guys to participate in a poll and answer a question. The question is, what best describes your situation? Or actually, it looks like we have a different question. It looks like the question is, where do you want to teach in Asia?
I think we got our, I think I may have gotten the order reversed, so I apologize for that. But this is a great question. We're really excited to see where folks might be interested in going. Christy, when you went to Japan, how did you, out of all the great places in Asia and around the world to go, how did you decide on Japan specifically?
Well, it definitely was a hard choice. There's so many good options. After talking with my advisor, I actually wasn't even originally planning to teach in Asia. I wanted to go to Europe, but after talking with my advisor and getting more details about all the different opportunities, Japan just won over my heart. My advisor did a really good job just talking to me about what my goals were out of the situation of teaching and living abroad, and she was just able to help direct me, and Japan was the winner.
All right, sweet. Well, we've had more than a minute here, so Christy, if you can close the poll and give us the results, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, no problem. So it looks like we have 33% answered Japan. We have 21% South Korea, 13% Thailand. We got a bunch of Vietnam as well, Taiwan, Cambodia, lots of good options.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people don't know about Myanmar. We're going to have to maybe change that during this broadcast. Well,
For sure.
fantastic. It was really interesting to uh, see. Now, Kenneth, let's get into the meat of the presentation here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, what are some of the benefits of teaching English in Asia? I'm sure it's not hard for a lot of you to figure out what some of them are. And it's an amazing region, obviously, for all of the great culture and history and scenery. It's a huge region. Literally almost 2 billion people living in East Asia alone. And it's the biggest job market for teaching English abroad. This region has also experienced tremendous economic growth and technological change in the last, let's say, half century to a century. So it offers everything from, ancient monuments and history to modern cities with state of the art infrastructure that, in many cases, sort of makes what we have here in the US look out of date and obsolete. In terms of teaching abroad, lots of jobs, super high demand. There are more than 300 million people learning English in China alone. And these are societies that tend to invest heavily in education. They're willing to pay good salaries and provide great benefits to qualified teachers to come and teach in their schools. So there are opportunities to make and save good money, anywhere from $200 to $1,000 or more after expenses, even for first-time teachers, depending on where you teach and what your job is. Then, of course, as you gain more experience, those opportunities are going to grow and expand. Also, Asia is one part of the world where you can line up a job in advance. You have a job waiting for you before you actually go abroad to teach. That's not always the case in a lot of other countries or regions. So a lot of people, want that security of having a job waiting for them when they get on the plane to go abroad. So we'll be talking about, more great things about teaching in Asia, but those are just some of the quick highlights to get us started. All right. So salaries and benefits. This is a highlight, for teaching English in Asia in general. It's even for first-time teachers, again, you can make and save great money in Asia. I think South Korea is considered, typically the top job market in terms of money that you can make and save. So it's a country where even first-time teachers are typically provided with housing and airfare and other great benefits. And because you're not paying rent, you're able to save that much more of your salary based on, what is typically a lower cost of living than you might expect in, say, Europe or the US. So it's a great option for first-time teachers who are interested in going to Asia and want to make and save extra money for paying off student loans or saving money for travel or other endeavors. Japan, another country where you can make and save good money. And then all of these other countries that we're going to be talking about, Taiwan, Thailand, Vietnam, China, even Myanmar and Cambodia. These are countries where you can make and save up to $500 or more a month in terms of savings after expenses. And a big reason why is, again, high demand and then a really low cost of living. So those dollars go that much farther in terms of purchasing power and being able to travel and so forth. And many jobs include benefits like health insurance and paid vacation. That's something you're not always going to find in some other regions like Europe and Latin America.
Yeah, so now we'll talk about the types of teaching jobs in Asia. So with hundreds of millions of people learning English across Asia, there are all kinds of schools that you can work in, different programs that you can apply to, and essentially different learning environments where you can teach English. So we'll take a look at some of the most common scenarios here.
Yeah, so most teaching opportunities in Asia are going to be in different variations of private language schools. So these are typically private enterprises. They very often specialize in language training. In Asia, very often they provide extra English training or other, training and classes for students to work on their skills after their sort of normal school day. They're known typically as hagwons in Korea or ikawa in Japan. Some of these private enterprises will cater to older students, so adults, people in business, people who are maybe in university and they're looking to take extra classes to maybe prepare for an English proficiency exam that will help them, gain opportunities to study abroad in an English-speaking country like the US, or it may help them qualify for jobs where English is required, which is increasingly the case in many of these countries. So lots of opportunities to work with many different types of students of different ages and backgrounds and so forth. But I would say typically most opportunities in Asia are teaching English to kids and high schoolers in private language institutes. Working in private language schools typically offers a lot more choice. Jobs are year-round because there's high demand. Now, that can vary from country to country, but typically speaking, you can get hired almost any time of year, and very often you make higher pay than working at a public school. You may get less vacation. There's some trade-offs like that. So if you have questions, ask your advisor. And usually the hiring process is going to be quicker than applying for those big government programs in Korea like EPIC or in Japan like the JET program. Those programs, typically there's one or two intakes a year and it's a more lengthy interview process.
Yeah, and the JET program is an example of a program with just one intake a year. It's a fabulous program. They recruit 5,000 native English speakers to work as assistant language teachers in public schools in Japan. So essentially, you'd be working with a Japanese teacher who is the English teacher in the school, and you would be their assistant. So they would have you help out as needed, whether it's with activities or games with the students, speaking activities. But again, you are in an assistant role, so you get to bring in your creativity while not having to take over the entire class yourself. The program is competitive, especially compared to 5 years ago, compared to 3 years ago. More and more people want to teach English every single year, so it's only getting more competitive. But that's okay because we prepare you so you can compete with other applicants. The application process is pretty long. It could be up to a year. So the application typically opens for 2 months in the fall. That's from October through November. You would interview somewhere around January, February, and then get ready after you're accepted, get ready for a July departure. Round trip flights are paid for the program. So obviously your flight going in, and then after you honor your contract after a year, then you are reimbursed for your flight going back home as well. And oftentimes housing is covered as well. So there's really good pay in the program. You could save up to $500 a month and great benefits. And outside of the JET program, there is another public program as well for teaching, and it is called Interact.
So, Christy, if you had advice for anybody who wanted to get, or any tips for anybody who wanted to get into the JET program, what would you tell them, or what would you tell your students on a sort of a daily basis when you get asked about that?
Really good question. So when I did the JET program, I was in a city called Himeji, which is actually the sister city of Phoenix, where I just recently moved to. And they recently had a Japanese festival like 2 weeks ago, and I actually got to talk with one of the recruiters for JET, like asking them about like updated, like what are you guys looking for? And he was telling me they have the most amount of people who are TEFL certified than they ever have had. They're looking for more. So TEFL certification, definitely gonna need that. I know one of my friends, she applied 5 different times before she actually got in, and she finally got her TEFL certification, and that's when she finally got in. So definitely something you want to get. Also talking about your experience before and thinking about different ways that you've gained skills that are going to help you to integrate into Japanese culture. They want to know you're interested in Japan, but they also want to know that you are there to work, to teach, to engage with your students, and have a good time doing all of that.
Great. I mean, Japan's really an amazing country.
It is. I got to do so many cool things while I was teaching there. I got to, my students taught me like Japanese tea ceremony. Some of my students invited me to sake distilleries, whiskey distilleries. I got to go to soccer games. I got to go to baseball games. I got to even go out to the Inaka, which means like middle of nowhere, and go to like a apprenticeship for samurai swords. And I got to make a samurai sword. That was really cool.
That is cool as heck.
Yeah.
Wow. Now Kenneth is gonna. I'm gonna ask Kenneth here about Epic in a moment. And as Kenneth just mentioned, Epic in Korea is kind of like the JET program in Japan, in that it's a government program. You apply, you get assigned to teach in a public school. Now, as I understand it, Kenneth, you could be an assistant teacher or you could be like a head teacher. It sort of depends on which position and how that particular school wants to use you. But one thing about, I think, in the EPIC program, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is very often in a Hagwon, you're going to be working with a lot of other foreign teachers, whereas in a program like JET or EPIC, you may be assigned to teach in a public school in a town or a suburb, and you may be one of the only or one of maybe 2 or 3 teachers in that school. So, is that how it worked for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was the only foreigner in my school. I was the only native English speaking English teacher in my school. So I worked for 2 different schools actually, and I had 5 co-teachers. So essentially, co-teachers are the English teachers, the local English teachers in that school. Um, it's just like John said, you can have a situation where where you have more of an assistant role or you take more of a lead. For me, it was the latter, and I was the lead teacher. Um, yeah, amongst my 5 teachers. So it really just depends on how the school wants to use you, and sometimes the teachers that you work with, what their personality type is like as well. Sometimes they may want you to take lead, and they may want to follow along.
Awesome. And we'll be talking more about Korea and Japan in just a couple of minutes. A lot of teachers, now there's huge opportunities. Lots of folks, make extra money tutoring on the side or teaching English online part-time in addition to their sort of full-time job teaching English. And then in some cases, especially in countries like Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, people will teach English online and just sort of go from place to place because they're teaching virtually. Um, they have that flexibility. Um, we have a lot of information on our website about teaching English online and tutoring. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of tutoring opportunities or teaching in schools as well for prepping people for standardized exams. And those gigs tend to make extra money. So something to keep an eye out. And we offer a variety of specialty courses that you can take if you're interested in teaching English online, tutoring private students, or specifically prepping people to take these standardized exams for folks who want to maybe study abroad in the US or the UK, or who are looking to take a job that requires them passing one of these proficiency exams.
Yeah, so guys, so now we want to just walk through what the requirements are exactly to teach in Asia. So just keep in mind that the requirements can vary country to country, but we want to highlight some of the general requirements that we see most often. So first, we'll talk about documents and visas. So anytime you work overseas, documents and visas are going to be extremely important. The requirements will vary from country to country, like we said, but also from job to job. So here are some of the documents that you may need for teaching in English, for teaching English in Asia. It'll start with your passport. So you want to make sure that you've had the passport for at least 6 months, and then there's also at least 6 months of validity for when your teaching contract is going to expire. Also, a background check. This is something that you want to get started on pretty early in the application process because you see it say there in parentheses, it has to be apostilled. Essentially, that is like a glorified notary. That's kind of like at the federal level. So it does take several weeks, sometimes several months for you to receive your background check back with it being apostilled. Also, a cover letter and resume, two passport style photos, health checkup or a drug test. That's just something that you can possibly get from your doctor's office, your primary care physician. You can get a letter from them just saying that you are in good health for you to take on the duties of a teacher abroad. Sometimes if you're applying to a program like Epic or JET, they'll actually give you the verbiage or give you a template of the doctor's letter and what it should say. Letters of recommendation, so this can be personal or professional, academic transcripts and diploma, and a visit to the consulate or embassy. So sometimes you would have to visit in person. I know when I was getting my visa for Korea, again, I'm a Florida native. The nearest Korean consulate was in Georgia, in Atlanta. I didn't have to go there though. I actually mailed in all of my visa application documents and along with my passport, and they mailed it back to me with the visa inside of the passport. So it is. So sometimes you may go in person, but other times you're able to ship it by mail as well.
All right, hiring requirements for teaching in Asia. Countries in Asia tend to be more strict when it comes to requiring a degree, when it comes to, as we mentioned, sort of criminal background check or a drug test. Um, Citizenship from a native English speaking country, which they sort of usually designate as the US, UK, Canada, Ireland, Australia, New Zealand. Sorry for the typo there, and South Africa. Age requirements are going to vary. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's definitely a preference in many instances for schools to want to hire teachers under the age of 40. Now, that's not to say that you can't find opportunities if you are over the age of 40. So we've had all kinds of teachers, 40 and above, find opportunities throughout Asia, but you should be aware of uh, this trend. Now, these are the retirement ages in a variety of Asian countries. That said, as I mentioned, there's still typically a preference for younger teachers. Now, it tends to be easier to get. I hired at an older, more mature age in countries like Myanmar, Cambodia, maybe Thailand, maybe Vietnam, compared to, say, South Korea or China. In many cases, it may depend on your own circumstances. So if you're, let's say, married to a Vietnamese and you already live in Vietnam, the age factor is not going to be as important, especially if you're willing to maybe do private lessons or teach English online. Uh, the best sort of general advice I can give is talk to your advisor about where you want to teach and what your options might be, and also be flexible. So, in a lot of these countries, if you're over the age of 40, it's easier to get hired if you're willing to take on opportunities that are perhaps maybe not in the heart of the biggest city or that sort of thing. So, be flexible when it comes to looking at your options and be willing to consider teaching opportunities in a multitude of countries. All right, we already took this slide, so this quiz. So let's move right along and get into some country profiles. All right, so these are in no particular order, but we are kicking off with South Korea, which is the most popular destination for all of our students in general. We mentioned great opportunities in terms of making and saving money, airfare and housing typically provided. Your work visa is going to be sponsored by your employer. Lots of opportunities in private language institutes through recruiters. So folks who get certified with ITA, we're going to help you find the best recruiters. We've worked with a lot of them. We have lots of students who work through recruiters. So we know sort of everything about the process and what to look for and what red flags might be. We've discussed public school programs like EPIC. Now, in terms of what Korea offers, really exciting, dynamic, and modern cities like Seoul and Busan. If you like eating and drinking and going out and that sort of thing, Korea is definitely a great option. It's a small country, the size, I think, of maybe Indiana, but it's got a lot of diversity in terms of its natural beauty. It has mountains, it has coastlines. So if you like hiking, if you like skiing, if you like these sorts of things, and Koreans really love sports. I mean, everything from golf to soccer to baseball. As I mentioned, it's the most popular country for our grads. We offer a TEFL course in South Korea. If you want to go there and take a 4-week TEFL course and get certified, we also have a guaranteed job placement program in South Korea that we'll be talking about in a few minutes. So if you want an extra level of service and placement, we offer that. Korea tends to be one of the more strict countries when it comes to degree requirements, citizenship requirements. Having a clean drug test is key, or a clean criminal background check is key. And it is harder to get hired under the age of 40. So something to bear in mind. Not that it's impossible, but that is a trend in South Korea for cultural reasons and other reasons. Kenneth, you taught English in South Korea. We don't have a ton of time. I know you could speak for hours about it, but sort of, what are some key tips you might have for people, and what sort of person might be a good fit for South Korea?
Yeah, so a tip that I would have, especially if we're talking about applying to the EPIC program, is just like with anything in life, the earlier that you apply, the better chances you have of getting in. So know the application cycle dates ahead of time. EPIC has two application cycles throughout the year. So just know that ahead of time. Generally, it's about 6 months before you're due to actually go abroad to Korea. And the type of person who I think would be good for it would be somebody who's uh, willing to take a lead and willing to and it won't doesn't have stage fright, because you will have classes, especially if you're going in a public school, you will have classes of 20 to 25 students, and you may be the lead teachers, even if it's your very first time teaching. So someone who is brave and someone who is willing to deal with a level of uncertainty, because sometimes you may go into class or you may go into school and your class might be canceled that day. So what else are you going to do to use up the time? How are you going to prepare for lessons later in the week? So yeah, these are just kind of like some tips that I would give. And then also, since you will be working with co-teachers in Korea, establish the structure with your co-teachers pretty early on. Find out exactly how involved they want to be in the classroom and what their involvement will be, because Koreans aren't as forward as other cultures. So it may be embarrassing for them to bring that to you because they don't want to offend. So it's best that you establish that very early on.
Excellent tips there. Um, okay.
Yeah. So now, so
Yeah,
now,
tell us about Japan here.
yeah, no, absolutely. So Japan is obviously, as evidenced by the poll that we took earlier, it's a super popular destination for teaching English abroad. Um, You have the ability to save $500 a month or more in Japan. And the primary employment opportunities will be either through private language schools, sometimes they're called private language academies. In Japanese, they're called ikawas. Or you can work in a public school. That would be through JET or the Interact program that we've been speaking about before. And then also your work visa will be sponsored by the employer. So essentially, you're getting TEFL certified, so you have the qualifications to teach, and then you're applying to a position in a private language academy or the JET program. You're getting hired, and you start your visa process from home, and then you head off to Japan afterwards. There are lots of hiring that's done through recruiters, like John said. That's pretty common in Eastern Asia in general, so Korea and Japan and China. A lot of great travel opportunities, fantastic transportation system throughout the country. The Japanese bullet train, I mean, the coach buses throughout is very, very accessible and very easy to get around. The culture, the cuisine. I know I traveled to Tokyo, Kyoto, and Osaka. I was fascinated by the cuisine when I was there. I thought I understood what Japanese food was, but when I went there, like my mind was blown and I learned a lot more. And we actually offer a course in Japan. We offer a TEFL course. It's a 4-week intensive course in Nagoya, and it's kind of like in the center of the country, so in between Tokyo and Osaka. So you can take your course there in person, and you could even combine that with our guaranteed job placement program, which we'll dive into a little bit more later on.
Well,
Chris,
oh yeah, go ahead.
yeah, no, I was just going to say, since Christy taught in Japan, Christy, was there anything that you wanted to share, like any tips for the classroom experience or just being in Japan in general?
Hey all. Yeah, honestly, you did a really good job covering all that. I like food. One of the reasons I travel is for food. So when you were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, like I thought it was sushi and ramen, but there's so many different types of foods I never would have known existed that are just delicious. It's a great place to save money too. Like you said, I was actually just talking with one of my friends I worked with in Japan recently, and we were laughing about how we didn't even know how to check our bank account for like the first couple of months, but we didn't need to worry about it because we knew we had enough to do whatever we wanted. Doesn't pay as much as Korea, but still felt that way. So it's another good option. Um, I would say if you're wanting to teach in Japan, there's a lot of different opportunities out there. I taught, with my experience with the JET program, I taught at elementary schools and middle schools, but I also volunteered and helped community members too. So I actually was teaching anyone from 5 years old to 93 years old while I was out there. My oldest student I had. So there's a lot of opportunities in Japan, and it's just such a cool place to be able to go and explore and see life through a new perspective and new eyes. Um, Having lunch with the kiddos there was like my favorite part because they have like a whole process where they actually learn about the foods they're eating, they learn about the health benefits, and they all help each other serve it to each other. And it's just really nice seeing such a completely different culture and getting to involve yourself in a deeper way than you could if you were just traveling there.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, all right. Speaking of amazing, Thailand, again, traditionally a popular destination, low cost of living. It's a country where more schools will hire locally in person. That said, you can also line up a job in advance. Needless to say, all sorts of great stuff in terms of the culture. Great, cities like Bangkok and Chiang Mai, uh, beaches, tropical cuisine, amazing, floating markets and so forth. ITA offers um, in-person courses in Chiang Mai and Hua Hin, which is on the coast. And we also have a guaranteed job placement program in Thailand if you want that extra personalized support and guidance. So just another top market to consider, especially if you're looking for a warm weather climate.
Yeah, and just kind of keeping the tropical vibes going, we move on to Taiwan. So Taiwan is a subtropical island nation off the southeast corner of China. The climate and some of its nature is like that of the islands in the Caribbean, really. So if you think of a place like Jamaica or the Bahamas, but just in Asia, then you have Taiwan. It has magnificent tropical beaches and a really lush mountainous interior. It offers the best of Chinese culture and cuisine, in addition to really the high-tech economy and the modern infrastructure that's associated with places like Korea or Japan. And then if you're somebody who loves adventure, so for example, if you love surfing, scuba diving, bungee jumping, then honestly, Taiwan is an adventure seek in heaven. I mean, besides that, if you're a foodie, like most travelers are, it's one of the street food capitals of Asia, and it's not expensive to dine out frequently when you're there. And just like some other countries in Asia, you can save $500 or more a month when you're there. And with that money, you can use that to travel to other countries, obviously. They do speak Mandarin in Taiwan. I always recommend to anyone that I'm advising that you should learn a little bit before you go of the language of whatever country it is. So that's recommended. But there is actually a nationwide initiative from the Taiwanese government for them to be a bilingual nation, so Mandarin and English by 2030. So it's becoming more and more favorable to foreigners. And it is one of the few well-paying countries that you can actually work without a bachelor's degree. You would need at the very least an associate's, and definitely your TEFL certification. But for those of you who don't have your bachelor's, Taiwan, and you want to make some money, Taiwan is a great option for you.
All right, China, the largest job market in the universe, as we say, a lot more than 300 million people learning English in China. Great opportunities to make and save money, good benefits for many jobs. Of course, that can vary. Uh, yeah, I mean, you could do hours and hours just on teaching in China alone. Um, what else to say? It's a place that has been going through tremendous change. There's lots of diversity in terms of climate, in terms of regions, in terms of working in different cities. So if you're looking at China, definitely do your research. Learn about sort of what part of the country you might be interested in going to before you sort of sign up for a job in a place you might not be the great fit. But it's definitely a place that if you don't teach there while you're in Asia and you can travel there, you definitely want to take that opportunity. So um, lots of opportunities in China and a lot of resources on our website about teaching English in China. So check them out.
So when we took the poll earlier, I noticed that Myanmar was pretty low in the results, and that's totally understandable. A lot of people don't know about Myanmar, and if you aren't familiar with the name, it used to be called Burma. Maybe that might ring a bell for some, but it's an up and coming market in Southeast Asia. Location-wise, it borders Thailand and China, so it kind of starts that cluster of the Southeast Asian countries. And it looks like Thailand did 60 years ago with the style of the architecture for the temples and the landscape. And everything is just very original and untouched by Western influence. The people there, they're extremely kind, and some people might even say that they're kinder than the people in Thailand. And Thailand has a reputation for having some of the kindest people in that region. So Myanmar may even trump that. Economically, it is on the lower end within Southeast Asia, but that means that people are really hungry to learn English because they can start competing with other countries. So as a result, there's a robust offering of teaching jobs, and there's a ton of upward mobility. So you can probably even start a teaching business or a school very easily in a place like Myanmar. And it is one of those places where you actually do not need a degree. Obviously, a degree will help, but is not required. Safety-wise, it's one of the safest countries in Southeast Asia. It's a very Buddhist country, so their norms are very strong around ethical and moral behavior. And so their culture has a strong focus on, additionally, on collectivism and the group and being polite. So it's a fantastic location, and teachers, you can still put away some money there, save somewhere between $200 to $300 a month.
Yeah, definitely. Probably not the place you want to go if you're looking for like the best nightclubs in Asia, but if you're looking for that super authentic Southeast Asian experience, Myanmar is definitely a great option. So is Vietnam, one of the most dynamic countries in Asia. My parents have actually lived there for 25 years. Man, it's changed so much since then, and it still has a lot of that old Southeast Asian charm as well. Really fast growing English teaching market, low cost of living, great opportunities to make and save money, inexpensive travel both within the country and in neighboring countries. Really dynamic street life and cuisine. There's a growing expat population, so if you're teaching in one of those cities, you're going to be able to meet and hang out with other English speakers and other ITA graduates. And we do offer TEFL courses and guaranteed job placement programs in Vietnam as well.
Yeah, and kind of staying here in Southeast Asia, we have Cambodia. Cambodia is really one of the most beautiful and historical nations in Southeast Asia. And as a result, it's a really great place to teach English. I would say it's similar to Myanmar and Thailand, with its Buddhist culture and friendly people. But while many nations in Asia require a bachelor's degree to get hired as an English teacher, Cambodia is actually an option for those without a degree. So again, you don't have a degree, well, you can get your TEFL course. You can get your TEFL certification. And we offer a course in Cambodia as well in Phnom Penh. And we also have a guaranteed job placement program. And again, the degree is not required, and we'll line up interviews for you, get you placed in a school, and you'll be all set up with a position in Cambodia if you were to go through our guaranteed job placement program. But it is another place with a lot of upward mobility, particularly in salary compared to the rest of the TEFL industry, because they're really going through or they really do a societal transformation. And it's going to be one of the fastest growing countries in Asia pretty soon.
Yeah, so I know, we don't have too much time to go into all of these sorts of, issues of daily life that you're going to probably have questions about. The thing to know is one, you don't typically need to know the language of the country where you're going to teach English. Um, and in this day and age, with all sorts of digital translators and apps and so forth, it's increasingly easier to bridge those language barriers. When it comes to teaching English, the TEFL certification course is going to teach you how to bridge those barriers in the classroom. But if you're worried about, hey, I don't speak Korean, therefore I can't go to Korea, no, that's not the case at all. In a lot of these places, there are other expats, there are other English teachers, so you will typically be able to make friends with other English speakers if that's what you want. That said, if you want to, go to Japan and live in a village or a town where you're the only English speaker, so you can really immerse yourself in Japanese culture, there are going to be opportunities for that as well. Very often, your school will help you with, getting set up with a bank account and money, and if you need to transfer money back to the States or pay off student loans or what have you, that's not too much of an issue. Health and medical concerns, this is going to vary by country and by job. A lot of these Asian countries have fantastic healthcare systems. Healthcare costs tend to be very low compared to the US. And in many cases, your job will include access to health insurance and healthcare. Um, Talk to your doctor if you have medical concerns, if you have prescriptions, if you have preconditions, because in a lot of these countries, they approach and deal with these concerns differently than we do here in the U.S. in terms of what medication they may or not use or consider acceptable. So we don't have time to delve into this in much detail, but definitely talk to your advisor if you have those sort of concerns. Um, Getting around, eating and drinking, traveling in this day and age, it's pretty easy to figure out, especially with all of the technology and so forth. And as I mentioned, English is a pretty uh, common language, even though it's not as spoken fluently in these countries as it is in many European countries. There's still a lot of resources in English. And traveling in Asia tends to be easy and relatively inexpensive. And it's one of the great benefits of teaching there are all the travel opportunities. Workday hours are going to vary based on what school you're teaching in. If you're teaching adults who are taking English classes after work hours, or school children who are taking extra English classes after school hours, you may be working mostly in the evening. Or if you're teaching during a regular school day, that may be the case as well. So talk to your advisor if you have any concerns about these sorts of issues. Go to our website, read about the alumni stories. They provide a lot of great insights and stories about, adjusting to life in these new countries. Um, Kenneth, I don't know, when you moved to Asia, did you have any particular concerns about these sorts of matters? And did you have any troubles adjusting to life as, an American moving to Korea, or let's say?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's the language barrier is the first thing because it's obviously a different language, but then also even just the way it's written, it's a character system. So it was a matter of learning that. So I would always recommend, I said it earlier, learn a little bit before you go. I always tell people learn the numbers, learn the directions, learn how to get by in a taxi, and learn how to order in a restaurant, and also learn greetings. So those are the, like the basics. Learn survival language skills before you go. And then you can find local language classes once you're there. So you can go to a language class 2 nights a week, maybe about 45 minutes to an hour, and then you'll slowly build your proficiency of the language of the country that you're in.
Yeah, and one thing I kicking myself because I forgot to add a slide about it is that ITA actually offers cultural orientation courses for a lot of these Asian countries that you can take either online or in person when you arrive in country, that provide you with a lot of guidance into, dealing with these issues when you first arrive, and also providing some language training. So we'll share out a link for those courses in the follow-up email that we send out tomorrow.
Yeah, and another thing that we're gonna include in that email tomorrow will be links for all of these different resources that you can use when you're diving into your research for your different TEFL course options. So some of the ones that we have available on our website are our country profiles and country charts. These are really great because they go through the salaries in the country, so you can see them side by side and compare different countries. The cost of living, the startup costs, so exactly how much money should you have on hand when you're moving to a country, what are the hiring requirements, what type of visa is used there. So country profile and country chart, really good stuff. Christy is actually going to drop a link in the chat for you guys with those two resources.
Yeah,
Also sorry, go ahead, John.
no, go ahead. I was just going to say we're also send them out in the follow-up email tomorrow.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, so you guys will get everything in the follow-up email. The TEFL certification course overviews, that's something that you'll also find on the website. So what's the difference between the 4-week course and the 11-week course? Or if you were to take the in-person course, what does it entail? Alumni Q&As, the alumni Q&As, we have it in written form, but we also have a video library where you guys can select the region, and even better, you can select the country, and you can see teachers who graduated with their TEFL certification from ITA and are now living abroad, and they're giving you a glimpse into their life. I feel like this is the most real way to experience it without experiencing it yourself. So you'll be able to see what the classroom is like, what their apartment looks like, their commute to school, the food that they're eating. So check out our video library. That is one of the best resources that I send to everybody after I speak with them on the phone. And then also our resource library includes things like a financial guide and PDFs to different countries as well. And
Yeah,
worth mentioning the alumni. As a ITA student, you guys will join our alumni network. So I'll just touch on it really quickly, but the alumni network is a lot of people ask me, I'm not going to know anybody when I get over there. How do I find an apartment? Or, how do I make friends? Well, you'll join our alumni network. This is our community of teachers all around the world, and we group them by country. So if you're going to Korea, you could join our Korea alumni group, and you'll be able to start making friendships before you even get over there. So again, all that will be sent tomorrow in an email.
Yeah, and quick on the alumni network, like you were talking about, as alumni, it really, really is helpful. I wasn't quite sure as to which country I wanted to go to, and once I enrolled, I chose the different countries I was considering, and I got to see what teachers were saying. And like Kenneth said, once I went abroad, I got to connect with those teachers and got to make friendships. I actually just got a baby announcement from one of the girls I met in the group like 9 years ago. So it really is a great community that you get to network with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're super proud of that. All right. We're running low on time, but we want to quickly talk about some TEFL certification options and a little bit about job search guidance before you guys get out of here. So you can learn about how we can actually help you teach in one of these fantastic countries in Asia. So Kenneth is going to talk about our 11-week online class, which is really our most popular class, especially if you're looking to teach in Asia.
Yeah, 100%. This is the most popular class. It's completely asynchronous. So you can do the course kind of on your own schedule here. And there is a course instructor. They do lead the course, and there is somebody that you'll be able to interface with. But it is an asynchronous structure. So it's specifically designed to accommodate people who are working or going to school full time or in any time zone. I saw there are people here on the call today from the UK, from Australia. So this is designed for our international students as well, but it's 170 hours, 150 is for the coursework, 20 hours is for the practicum. All of our courses are taught by real instructors, so it's not just a self-paced course where you're just learning to teach on your own. No, there's actually a teacher who's teaching you how to teach. So there are lectures. If you can attend them live, then that's great. But if you can't, everything is recorded. There's a video library where you can watch the recordings back. Main requirement is that you're turning the assignments in by the weekly due dates. But it's very personal attention. We cap it at 20 students per class. And with all of that is included in the tuition. So the amount that you would pay is normally $15.99, but currently it's $14.49. So we do have a $150 discount on the course that runs through March 15th. And if you pay for it in full, then you get an additional discount of another $50. But we do know everyone can't pay in full, which is why we offer payment plans. And the payment plans are interest-free. So it would be the $14.49, and you can work with your advisor to make a customizable payment plan for yourself.
Yeah, we're super proud that this class has been named top online class by numerous organizations throughout the industry. Here's a quick overview of the, excuse me, of the curriculum or syllabus for this course to give you an idea of everything that it covers. One thing that's worth noting about this course is that in total it's 170 hours, as Kenneth mentioned, with 150 hours of coursework and 20 hours of student teaching. That's roughly 40% more content than you cover in a typical 120-hour TEFL class. So you're going to learn more than most other TEFL classes on the market. And potential employers are going to see the higher number of hours in the course. And that's also going to help you in terms of, just looking a little bit stronger when you're competing in the job market for all of these jobs in these different countries.
Yeah, guys, and by contrast, if you're looking to start teaching like yesterday, or if you have 4 weeks where you have nothing going on, then you actually have another option here, a quicker option, which is our 4-week intensive online class. So it's exactly as it sounds. It's an intensive course, so it is 5 days a week. You see the time zone here is in Central Time Zone. So the instructors are based in Chicago. So it runs Monday through Friday, generally 9:30 to 5:30. And you see it say 7:30 p.m. some evenings because some of those evenings you will be teaching. So the way that the structure works of this course is in the daytime, you would have your lectures. There would be about a 1 hour break for lunch. And then in the afternoons, you would have your lesson planning sessions. So either you're doing your lesson plan individually or you would have a one-on-one with your course instructor, and they would be able to help refine the lesson plan for you, especially if you're going to be teaching that night. The way the teaching works is you'll do a rotation. So 2 nights a week you would teach, let's say Monday and Wednesday, and 2 nights a week you would observe another teacher, let's say Tuesday and Thursday, and that would alternate the following week. So those nights that you're teaching, you can expect to be on a little bit later to 7:30 p.m. Again, same structure as with the 11-week class. All of the classes have real teachers, real instructors. They all have advanced degrees, at a minimum, a master's degree or a PhD in teaching English or a related field. And all of our instructors have lived abroad themselves. So they're not just speaking about the experience, but they've actually lived it. The practicum hours are built into the course, so the instructor would assign the students to you, and it would all be done online. You'd be teaching the students, and your instructor would be monitoring you. And all of our courses are accredited, so it's accredited by Ofqual. Ofqual essentially stands for Office of Qualifications, and that's a department of the British government, and they're the ones who regulate all professional qualifications in the UK, and they do the same for us. And ours is held to a level 5 status, which essentially is the highest status that you can get before you're actually considered a degree. So we're very proud of that. And just as the 11-week course has personal attention, I would say the 4-week course just builds upon that. It has 12 students per class, so there's a lot of engagement with the professor and your classmates. And again, this is a very quick option to get certified in 4 weeks. The price normally is $20.99, but we have it discounted by $200, so it's $18.99, and that's through March 31st. If you enroll in a course that's several months out, then you can put down a deposit of $600, and then you pay your balance off 30 days before your course begins.
All right. And we also offer in-person classes in 25 locations worldwide. I mean, these meet all of the same standards. They're small classes, lots of engagement. Um, we do offer in-person classes in Japan, Korea, Thailand, Vietnam, Myanmar, in Cambodia. If you want to take an in-person class in Asia, a lot of folks who want to teach in Asia take the class online from home because it's more cost effective, and you can line up a job in advance from home. And that's a process you can begin while you're taking your online class. But hey, if you want to go to a country and take the course in person, acclimate yourself, start meeting people, start getting used to, the rhythm of daily life, you can do that. And the staff on the ground will help you with lining up job opportunities as well. So if you're interested in in-person classes, go to our website, check out the options, talk to your advisor.
Okay, specialty courses. So specialty courses are extremely essential in today's TEFL world. Probably 20 years ago, you used to be able to get an English teaching job just because you spoke English. But honestly, that is just not the case anymore because there were just way too many unprepared teachers going abroad and not knowing how to teach. And honestly, it kind of gave us all a bad rap. So now not only do you need your TEFL so you can learn the fundamentals of teaching English to non-native English speakers, but you should find a niche, an area to specialize in so you can be even more proficient with that style of teaching. So that's what a specialty course is. You could think of your TEFL as a major and the specialty course as a minor, because you'll learn all of the important info in your TEFL, but the specialty course goes into more of the specifics and the niche learning on a topic. So it's like an extension of your TEFL course, and it's generally just 2 to 4 weeks. Actually, all of them are 2 weeks, except our fundamentals of English grammar, which is 4 weeks. But they allow you to develop a specific teaching skill set in an area that you're interested in. So, for example, most people that are going to Eastern Asia, teach countries like Japan, Korea, China, you'll be teaching kids. That's definitely going to be the bulk of the opportunities. So you see bullet point number 2, teaching English to young learners. That's an excellent choice for the type of jobs that you'll get because you'll learn alternative teaching styles that work better for kids, how to develop age-appropriate lessons. You'll also learn activities to succeed in classroom management. For example, if you have a classroom of 6-year-olds, so you're going to learn exactly like how to prepare to be able to manage that. So specialty courses are essential. Not only are they a resume booster, but they're also a skill set and confidence booster. And again, with Asia, it would be, I mean, it would just behoove you to get a specialty course for teaching young learners because you definitely would be working with kids. I would also touch on our test preparation or tutoring English or teaching English online specialty courses as well. If you're going particularly to Southeast Asia, you can find some opportunities to use those in that market. And if you enroll in your specialty course with your TEFL course, you'll actually receive a $75 discount on it.
Yeah, great options to boost your skills and your resume. Um, yeah. Now, timelines for teaching English in Asia. I mean, there's a lot of variation depending on where you want to teach and whether you want to, say, teach in a public school program like JET or EPIC, where there's 1 or 2 intakes a year. You can get hired, as I mentioned earlier, typically if you're willing to work in a private language school. I would say in general, if you're taking, let's say, the 11-week online class, you're typically looking at, you know, 5 to 9 months from when you start your class to when you can be abroad actually teaching. It could be a little bit longer. It could be shorter. Typically, if you take your class in person or if you take that 4-week online TEFL class, the intensive one that's 4 weeks, you can be abroad a bit quicker. But this, is a process that's going to take some planning. And bottom line, the sooner you get into your TEFL class, the sooner you can begin teaching English in Asia. I would say, hey, if you get into an online class now, you could realistically be abroad by maybe the late summer or the fall of 2024. Certainly, if you want to teach English in Asia in 2020, late 2024, 2025, now's the time to get started. All right. So whether you're, wherever you want to teach. We've discussed in Asia, enormous demand, hundreds of millions of people learning English. Getting TEFL certified is really only half the process, too. And while there are all these opportunities, navigating international job markets, figuring out which recruiters are trustworthy, understanding visas, criminal background checks, timelines, all of these matters. We have a whole team of people here to help you, and we provide lifetime job search guidance to all of our students and graduates. I know we're running a little bit late on time, but Kenneth's going to give a quick rundown on, what some of those resources and how that personalized guidance can look for you in terms of helping you get an opportunity teaching English in Asia or elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. So in addition to your admissions advisor, we'll also assign you a personalized job search advisor. You'll work with your admissions advisor before enrolling in a course, and then once you're enrolled and then particularly ready to start the job search, then you work with your job search advisor. And this is included in our lifetime job search guidance. And this is included with any type of ITA course that you sign up for, and it's no additional cost. So your advisor will provide you with resume and cover letter assistance. They'll help prepare you for interviews with sample interview questions. They'll also review job offers and contracts that you get. Like John said, it is a little difficult navigating the international markets, and you might want a second set of eyes to look over contracts that you get when you receive multiple job offers. Your job search advisor will also provide advice and information on different job types in your country of choice. So also the hiring seasons, they'll guide you on the visa process. But above all of that, they'll connect you to job opportunities through our school directory. So we have an extensive directory of the top language schools in person or online all around the world and how to apply to them. So you're going to get access to that. And not only that, ITA has a relationship with many schools internationally, and we highlight those associated schools for you in our school directory because those schools prioritize hiring ITA students. So additionally, as Asia is really heavy on recruiters, as we mentioned earlier, we include recommendations in our job search resources for recruiters that have a good track record of getting teachers hired. And again, all of this is included with your course as a lifetime benefit. So if you start off in a country like Korea and then 3 years down the road, you decide you want to go to Thailand, you always have access to these resources.
Yeah. Um, Now, if you're looking for an extra, like super duper premium level support, we offer guaranteed job placement programs in a lot of these countries: South Korea, Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Myanmar, Japan. Um, these are programs that you do pay extra for, but they do provide an extra level of end-to-end personalized support, including an extra level of assistance with pre-departure materials, We match you with schools that sort of fit what you're looking for in terms of a teaching job. So rather than you applying and setting up interviews with schools yourself with our assistants, we'll actually go find schools and set up the interviews for you. These programs also include 40 hours of cultural and language training. And then once you begin your teaching placement, let's say you're teaching English in Cambodia or Vietnam or Japan or what have you, you have access to 24/7 support. So if you're having mental health issues, or let's say you have homesickness or culture shock, or you have an issue with your employer, we have a team there, right there in the region to help you address those issues right away. Um, Requirements are going to vary country to country in terms of age, whether you need to be a native English speaker, whether you need a degree, and so forth. So we'll send out a link tomorrow in the follow-up email where you can learn more about individual job placement programs in all of these different countries. And also, you do get a nice big discount if you sign up for one of these programs with your standard TEFL class. Also, if you're an ITA alumni, we offer special discounts for you. So get in touch if you want to take advantage of those.
Yeah, and I know we don't have much time to go over the programs in depth. And like you said, we'll send the links in a follow-up email tomorrow. But one thing I just want to say, Christy mentioned earlier that she knew someone who applied to the JET program 5 times before they got in. So if that whole process of applying just sounds way too much for you, and you want something that's certain and you want that security, then you can just simplify things and just make us do the work for you. And that would be through our job placement program. Like John said, we set up the interviews for you, we coach you, we match you to a school that's based on your preferences, and you'll have a job lined up.
Yeah, and last thing to mention here, I know we're running a little bit over, but since we opened our doors 14 years ago, building an international community of teachers and travelers has really been a priority for us. We want to have a support network for our students and graduates. We want to have ways for you to connect with other people like yourself who are either looking to teach English abroad or who are already abroad who can provide guidance and tips. So we have all these different Facebook groups and forums and different ways for you to connect with people. So let's say you're interested in teaching English in Japan. Hey, you can ask somebody in the Japanese, in the Japan Facebook group, hey, can I get peanut butter in Japan? Or, can I buy, is there certain clothing I need to take with me when I moved? Can I get deodorant in Myanmar? All these sorts of basic in and out questions, or maybe, people set up social meetups. People to find roommates, or share job tips. It's just a wonderful research for our graduates and our students. As Christy mentioned earlier, she's still in touch with people that she met through these groups, almost a decade ago. So I think this is one thing that really sets ITA apart from a lot of the other organizations in the TEFL field. And just to wrap up, here's a picture of one of our colleagues, Ambrosia, down there on the left with the peace sign holding up the ITA flag. This is at an alumni meetup that she hosted in South Korea about a year or so ago. So I know it looks like any old Irish pub, and yes, you can go to an Irish pub in Korea and most of these other countries as well. But just a small illustration of how we try to build that community so that you can stay connected, get some support, make friends, and have your best possible experience teaching English abroad. So before we wrap up here, anything to add to that, Christy or Kenneth, before we sign off?
I did have one question that I thought was really good in here that I think people would like to hear an answer to. They were asking about Myanmar, since a lot of people don't know about it, or what they have heard with the history of it. They're wondering, is it really a safe place to go and teach right now?
So I'll just, address that right quickly. Myanmar is a country that, like a lot of countries in Southeast Asia, think Cambodia, think Vietnam, for example, countries that have experienced a lot of conflict. There are some traditional social and cultural divisions. There's some sectarian divisions. So the traditional rivalries, for example, between Buddhists and Muslims. There is a history of armed conflict. Now, it's kind of like a country in, like, let's say, Colombia, and that tends to be really limited to some outlying regions. Those are not regions where you would be teaching. Most of the teaching jobs are going to be in major cities that are, as Kenneth mentioned, some of the safest cities in the region. Uh, so, anytime you go abroad, there's you're taking a risk. That said, hey, in the United States, we live in one of the most violent societies in the developed world, and that's just the fact of the matter. So, it's like anywhere else. You need to weigh the risks and rewards, do your due diligence. No place is completely safe, although I would say that East Asia in general is one of the safest parts of the world, especially countries like South Korea and Japan. Um, so, yeah, if you got questions about this, get in touch. We're certainly not going to encourage you to go somewhere where there's a high probability that you might get caught up in some sort of conflict. Um, but yeah, we're here to provide that information, and Myanmar, like any number of other Asian countries or other countries in other parts of the world, whether it's Latin America or Africa or Europe, there can be issues. But in general, the cities where you would teach in Myanmar are going to be among the safest in the region. Guys, got anything to add for that?
No, I think you summed it up perfectly, John.
Yeah, I think the only thing would be like most of the time when you are going to like teach with a school, a lot of the schools are typically in safer neighborhoods. So you want to live near those areas. So that would be the only thing I have to add.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're, in terms of like street crime and, that sort of thing, any of these countries are going to be safer than most other parts of the world, although no place is completely safe. You always want to be smart. You don't want to be wandering around strange parts of town at night under the influence. Um, so it's like anything else. You want to be careful. You want to do your due diligence. You want to use common sense, and if you do that, you should be fine. Um, and we're here to provide more information and answers questions. So get in touch if you have further questions about Myanmar or any other countries in the region or in the world.
Yeah, and really the advice and the guidance doesn't stop here in this broadcast tonight. It's ongoing. We have a full staff here to answer your questions and provide guidance from your admissions advisor, who you'll work with again before you enroll in a course. Your admissions advisor is going to help guide you to the course that makes the most sense for you and your plans, to your course instructor, who is going to help get you through that course, and then your job search advisor thereafter. So if you're interested in an online course, we mentioned earlier that the 11-week part-time one is the most popular one. It is a very flexible course that begins every 2 weeks. So you don't have to wait for a new semester for you to get started with all of this. If you're working, you're in school, you can definitely manage it with the 11-week part-time course. It's set up for you and for that type of schedule. So you can jump in at any time and get started right away. And again, you have support all the way through, and that job assistance, that is lifetime here with ITA.
All right. So, kind of quickly, what are the next steps people need to do if they want to teach English in Asia or around the world?
Well, you guys are going to have a bunch of questions, so talk to your advisor. If you don't have an advisor, then email info@internationalteflacademy.com so you can have an advisor assigned to you. But I'm confident that the majority of people, if not all on this call, have an advisor. Then choose a course. Your advisor is going to help you through that. Choose your course, start your course, and pass your course. Then you start saving for your flight. You may be doing this while you're in your course. You're saving for your flight and at least 2 to 3 months worth of startup costs. And then also you're connecting with other teachers through our alumni network. You get access from the time that you become a student. So start making those friendships, start making those connections, start asking those questions. And then if it is a country that interviews in advance, start interviewing. Get hired, get your visa, do that from home. And then you can even gain some experience by teaching online if you still have a few months before you're ready to go. And then you pack your bags and you go. And I always tell everyone, your trip doesn't start when you get on the plane. Your trip starts when you pay for your course. So talk to your advisor, choose a course, and then that gets this whole process started.
We want to thank everybody for joining us. We did take that one question. Again, get in touch with your advisor. They'll really be able to go over your questions in depth. Check out our website. We have, thousands of videos and articles and country profiles and so forth to help you out. If you don't have an advisor, again, shoot us an email, give us a call. We'll be sending out a follow-up email tomorrow so you can respond to that. Check out the resources. I want to thank Kenneth and Christy for sharing all their expertise, from their experiences teaching English in Asia. Folks, it was fantastic. Get in touch. Have a great evening or a great day wherever you are. And we look forward to hearing from you soon. So long, everybody.
Thank you guys. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.